Judd, hey.
How you doing, man? Good talking to
Good,
you again.
thanks for joining us. Great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Life's good, man. Just trucking along.
And you're joining us
Summertime,
from
so I
your.
got my son right now, so we're just hanging out, dude. One of the benefits of having a lifestyle where you don't have to be at 9 to 5 is if I want to take a week straight and hang out with my kid, I can. So trying to take advantage of that.
Your son is what grade is he in again?
He is 9 years old. He's going in the fourth grade next year.
Wow.
So,
And did you guys have some summer plans? Did you guys do some trips, anything like that?
yeah, we've been to this place called Kalahari, which is a water park. It's kind of kid cocaine. And then in a week we're gonna go down to the coast of Texas and just hang out. It's kind of a kid trip. So looking for I got the Airbnb ready to go. So pretty excited.
And what is? I think your son will actually. I'll segue over because I think your son's a big part of your purpose and your drive for everything that you've done, which we'll talk about. But what's your son's like? Is your son really into sports? Is he into fishing? What's his thing?
He's into cartoons like animation. So he's into storytelling. He loves to draw. That's kind of his big thing. He likes to act and he's pretty adventurous too. But I mean, his big thing is like being creative and storytelling.
Oh, very cool. And then did he get that? Who is that? Just nature to him? Did he get that? Did he get that gene from anybody in the family or?
I mean, we can see some similar traits between him and I, but he's definitely an original, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. That's awesome. And so, guys, today we'll talk about Judd. Judd's a really amazing and cool story. And Judd, I think knowing you and knowing you in a deeper level, your story as a content creator and building your personal brand is pretty incredible. Um, and I would say, as a starting point, part of your I'd say when I met you, you were definitely growing on social media, but you were you were not too far away where you were really just brand new to it and starting out. And what you've done over the last 2 3 years has been incredible. Um, and I'd say part of the bedrock for I'd say your drive and you doing this and probably pushing into an area you're uncomfortable is saying is to support your family, and that's kind of starting deep. But as like, why don't we talk through the story of where you were? However personal you're willing to go. That's kind of for you to talk on, but like you had a pretty personal story, I think, from your starting point, and then yeah, what's like so many folks are like, hey, I'm social media is scary. Putting myself out there is scary. I think for someone like you, it doesn't seem like not that you're a very smart guy, but you didn't come from like a tech background per se. You didn't come from a content creation background, and then to create what you've created over the last 2 years has been remarkable. So I'd love to talk about what kind of drove you to be like, fuck it, I'm going to do this, and to kind of overcome those any limiting beliefs you have. So starting point, how do we get here? Where did social media come in? Maybe a little bit of your training. Let's start with your training background and then where social media started for you.
It's like anything else, man. It is a point of desperation for me, where you know life was okay when I was married, and I could be home at least at night with my kids, but I wasn't happy because I was grinding away. I was a very good, successful trainer, but a lot of my athletes were young athletes, so when they could train was at night. So I would train adults early in the morning. I train kids at night, 6 days a week, all day on Saturday. I loved what I did, but I was desperate to be with my son more. But it hadn't reached the point yet where I was willing to really step out and just let go on one rope to grab another. It had to reach like a desperation point, and that happened when I got divorced, and I was staring down the likelihood that I would hardly ever see my son, not because I wasn't a good dad, but because of the nature of my work, I just was never going to be around him. I worked every night, every weekend, so the weekends I could get him, I'd have to work, and I was like, I have to do something else. So one of my reels went viral, and my Instagram started to grow very quickly, I was uncomfortable with that. One of the keys I think to my growth has been I've been willing to be extremely open and vulnerable and real with people on Instagram or social media in general. I have social anxiety. I don't like people that I don't know commenting about me. things like that, as you're well aware of. But I had to overcome those fears, as well as the fear of, letting some of my clients go and having that financial risk, um, because I was so desperate to change my schedule so that I was in an extended court battle just trying to get more custody of my son. So I had to do that in order to show the judge that I don't have to work every night. I don't have to work every weekend. I have the financial means to support my son. And it was born from desperation. And, I just wanted the freedom to take week long. So this vacation going on, I hadn't taken a week long vacation in 15 years just because sole provider for my family on a trainer's wage. This is a good wage, 120 grand a year, but living in Austin, Texas, man, you cannot take 7-day vacations because as a trainer, as a lot of the days you don't work, you don't make money. It's not like I'm on salary with vacation time. So that always had to be factored in with every family vacation. It's like a 3-day vacation. We can't drive anywhere because that's 2 days of the vacation. And, now it's like, hey, I want to go somewhere for a week, go for a week. And I can still work on the trip. It's not like I'm not going to work, but Levi's asleep. I do my reels. I do my content. He comes with me. I film a couple exercises, make a reel, engage with some people, and then the rest of the day it's me and him.
I love that, man. I do. I love it so much. I mean, your story is amazing. Just watching your ascension has been awesome. But to take it back a little bit, so you've been training people for a very long time, and then where did social even come? Where do you even entertain the thought of like, hey, I'm going to open an Instagram account? Like, where did that come? Where did that come in?
So I had one for a long time. I had a Facebook account where I would do a lot of writing on it. So I'm big into writing, and so I had like a little group of people to follow my writing. It got hacked, and I lost a ton of my writing and a ton of my photos, and it was pretty traumatizing for me actually because photos of Levi from a young age I didn't have backed up anywhere, things like that. So I had an Instagram for a long time, and I always had this notion like I think I can build enough followers to where maybe I can do something on the side, like have a training program on the side. I never envisioned it being something that I could do full time that would supplant my day job, basically. I always thought maybe a couple $1,000s, and that was kind of my goal. And I wasn't very consistent with it. That's something we'll talk about is people, they don't stay consistent with the posting. And honestly, I didn't think what I was doing was that unique. I really didn't, because I always thought I adhered to basic common sense fitness tenets. And I just kind of assumed that everybody knew those tenets and they knew how to structure things. And I'm kind of a bigger guy, so I'm like, 250 and I'm fairly lean, so I kind of look like a bodybuilder, but I teach kids for speed. So I got really good at doing like the speed drills and some athletic stuff. And I posted a random reel of me doing speed drills, not realizing that isn't very common, and it went viral because I guess bodybuilders can't move well. And I didn't realize the thing I had that was special. And I think a lot of us, we don't realize the thing that we have that makes us special. And when that took off, I had to kind of grasp that and then maybe find some other areas that I was both special in, but also that a lot of other people could relate to, like struggling through middle age, maybe going through a divorce, trying to raise a family or a son, dealing with some PTSD as a veteran, things like that, and just be open and raw with it, because that's the only way I know how to be.
So you're training, you're posting on social with the idea, understand, hey, I can make some side income. That's where you have in mind, and then you have one post, and then at that point you don't have like grand aspirations in the fact that you're just like you're like I'm gonna make some side income. You have a post that goes viral. Is that the aha moment for you, where you're like, this could be something else, or was it another moment, or like what do you think it could have been a series of things, but what do you think was that opener where it's like, hey, this could be something different?
Right away, it wasn't an aha moment for me. I wasn't even really paying attention to it. But some people I followed are like, hey, you just gained 10,000 followers in a day. What's going on? Did you buy these followers? I'm like, no, I just and I had to go back and look. And then we had no idea how we were going to monetize it. Part of it is being willing to say yes. So Playbook actually, reached out to us and being like, hey, I have something special here. Would you be willing to talk to us? And kind of filtering through a lot of kind of people like you guys that kind of seem shady, and like seeing who seemed genuine and like legit. And in that journey, we did make some mistakes, and like gave people a chance to kind of work with us that weren't really as advertised. So there's going to be that. There's going to be side steps. And I had somebody in my life, I still do, that was there, that knew some business, that would encourage me, that had faith in me. That's very important. And, she had seen Playbook ahead of time. So when I brought Playbook up to her, I'm like, hey, these people want to sit down and talk with us. She's like, yeah, I'd already been looking at them. And, we met with you, and you guys seemed genuine in what you did. And you made the process very easy and straightforward with very little financial risk on our part. And we were like, why not? And turned out to be great. So, yeah, there wasn't really an aha moment. Like, honestly, with Playbook, we thought we were hoping we could make 5, 10 grand a month. That was like our dream goal. I mean, to be completely honest, we didn't have a vision board as far as the fitness app goes that was there. We thought it would be one of potentially a couple other streams of income for us, hoping to make, I'm sure Mia had bigger ideas than I did, but I was hoping to make 10 to 20 grand a month total. And I was excited about that opportunity, honestly.
Got it. So it's that, understandably, it's been a gradual thing. So on social, you have this post go viral. You're like that because you have more of a follower, you have more people following you now. You're like, okay, maybe I got to take it a little bit more serious. And then your brain starts taking to be like, what else can I post? Is that fair?
Yeah, I always thought it was going to be hard to come up with content, but honestly, every
What was
day,
your limiting belief, if you don't like?
yeah,
You
it's
kind
like,
of had
what
a
am I
limiting
going
belief
to,
holding your back. There was like,
yeah, what am I going to post every day? Yeah, what are people going to be interested in? And then it turns out I have a lot of opinions, and we all do. And we have a lot of thoughts on fitness, and just bringing people through my daily fitness journals, or what injury I'm working with, or I'll talk to somebody at the gym that has a question and be like, a lot of people have this question. I'm going to make a reel about it. And the content just comes day after day. I don't really have to think about it. And I engage with people in the comments, and they ask questions or they say dumb shit, and I'm like, I'll make a reel about this dumb thing this dude said, without calling that person out. But like they some insult or something. I'm like, people. There's a lot of trolls on Instagram, and I highlight that aspect. But a troll will say something, and I'll be like, well, I can make a reel about what this troll said. And like, so the ideas just come. Yeah, like. Um,
yeah,
I
and
think
is
as long
a
as we're not trying to like shield ourselves and be something we're not, yourself flows out every day anyway. Just figure out a way to package it in a way that people can understand and are interested in is the key.
and is it fair? So I don't want to kind of leading the horse to water here, but I'd say one of the threads that I've been doing this for a long time is that there's limiting beliefs. Some things happen that allow you to overcome them, whatever they are, whether it's talking on camera, can I create content consistently, content ideas? There's a handful of them we all have. And then you start to like gradually break those down. And then your brain, more or less, I think, as you're like, I'm going to become a creator, you kind of start to rewire where your everyday operating system is, that you're looking at life and using life to come up with content ideas. Is that kind of, there was whatever 2 years ago, whenever you started, there wasn't your brain. I would probably. Is it fair to say your brain wasn't really wired to like think of ideas all the time? Now, because it's such a part of your profession that you're just like that it flows. It kind of flows into you like that. Like how is what I'm saying make sense? And then do you think that's a fair? Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, it does just become part of your life. You're like, this happened. How can I put this in a reel that's less than a couple minutes long that will get people's attention in the first second or two? That's genuine. People think social media is fake, and I got it. There's a lot of fakeness out there. But my trick has been be extremely real. Be so real that sometimes it might make people upset or uncomfortable. As long as it's genuine to who you are as a person, don't feel like you have to hide parts of yourself or parts of your struggle or be perfect. So we got a lot of bad advice to start, like, hey, don't put it out there unless it's very good quality or a very perfect image. You got to pay this person to format everything to make it just look like an advertisement. And that's not, it should be quality enough where they know what they're watching. But, a lot of times I forget to wipe the lens of my camera off, or just like I put it out there. This is what I'm doing. Say it in a way that resonates with people immediately, or elicits some kind of emotion in them, good or bad. And then you got them, and then they'll listen to the rest of your message. And it's from a genuine place. Like, there's no reel I put out that's just trying to trick people or just make money. It's from a genuine place. I genuinely want to help people, and I'm a Christian, and I believe that if you come from a genuine place wanting to help people, God will reward you so that you can continue to help people.
Uh, I want to go into that's a good segue to where I want to go next, which is how deep you are. But why I want to finish one thing on the social thread. So you're 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 such an where I want to go to is like really is you're a very smart guy, and you're like well researched, you're well read, and I want to talk about that too, because that's like I think that's an important thing for people to understand and take away, is that your knowledge base and I think your understanding of the world does a great, you can see how it manifests itself in your social content. But before I go there, you do, which I love your content, and then you do a great job of like going after the trolls, which is awesome. I think you're explaining the benefits and the trade-offs of things like CrossFit, which is people are obviously deeply emotional about. So you're definitely going into contentious areas with delivering a positive message with the goal of educating. But you're still you're posting things that are which is awesome, which is going to upset people, trigger people, and with that said, do you hesitate at all? Like, is there any part of you that's like, maybe I don't send this? Is there any part of you that like second guesses, like or is it just like, I don't give a fuck? And there's no wrong answer. I'm just genuinely, that's just genuinely curious.
I probably don't hesitate enough. I think a lot of people involved in the business wish I would hesitate a little bit more. I mean, because sometimes, like, I do lose a lot of followers with stuff I post, and there's a saying, and I agree with it. I'd rather have 1,000 true followers than a million that were just kind of like, this is interesting, And if I shed some followers because I piss them off, because they're easily pissed off, then that's the price of being genuine. And I think you have to have a higher goal than just trying to mass a bunch of followers. You have to get people that are invested in your beliefs a little bit, or want to go there to be challenged. And then I think you'll get higher quality followers that are engaged with your content at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so Judd is deeply philosophical, and he's very well read. And that my next point where I was going is one of the themes that we have is really the foundation is you. And I think someone could look at your social and not fully understand everything that's been under the hood, but you have tremendous life experience. You're in incredible shape. You've been building a physique for a long time. Like, this moment is manifested over decades, I would say, where it's like you're incredibly well read. You've read a lot in history. You deeply understand the human psyche. You've been training people for a long time. You understand their emotional levers and how to pull them, understand how to talk about that. You deeply understand fitness. So you've really built this really amazing character, and not character, I'm saying the word character as if you understand what I'm saying, but not a character as like you created something that's fake. Like, you've built this amazing person, and then you're really giving that person to the world. And I'd say, like, to your extent that you could validate that statement of like, you've had a really great life experiences, you've been training for a long time, you take your training very seriously. So I'd say, like, an up and coming guy who wants to become a content creator in the fitness space, like you seem so knowledgeable, and you've really been studying the art and science of training. So let me kind of put it there. Is that fair? Kind of like, where does your training background, and then how serious have you taken your education and your because you also have really unique movements and everything you're doing, but you're like a savant of training, I would say, if that's the right way to say it. It's like I'll kind of put a pin in it there, and whatever you think you want to go with there. Yeah.
I really felt like I started to learn when I started to understand that I didn't know everything. So my mid to late 20s, when I got out of college, with a exercise science degree and a certification that was nationally recognized, I kind of thought I knew everything. And in my mid to late 20s, and especially early 30s, when I got into the military, and I started to realize how much there was about the world and about fitness and training that I didn't know. And I really started to open up and just, because it was my passion. And so I think that's key. And to just know that there's a lot out there that I don't know still. And I'm on a quest to just keep finding out more. And, I just picked up rope flow like a week ago for the first time. And it's a phenomenal thing. And I've gone 44 years without doing it. to my chagrin. So it's just like I'm always, like it wasn't until my late 20s that I tried yoga for the first time. Um, there's still so much out there that I don't know and I don't understand, so I'm always trying to learn more. And I think that's key is that like just never stop learning and being just curious about life in general, but especially about fitness and trying to see things from as many different perspectives as we can. It's like people say, what's your point of view? It's like, why do you only have one point of view? It says that your point at which you view something, we should try to be getting as many points of view as we can so that our vision is as complete as possible rather than just having one point of view that you try to defend all the time. So I think knowledge just grows from being curiosity and being open to learn and understanding that I am not the expert at all things, obviously.
And with that though, it's like, so do you have a process where you're like, hey, that looks interesting, or you kind of stumble upon it some way, or it's kind of instinct, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna read some books, I'm gonna talk to some experts. Do you have, I spend a lot more time with Judd, so I didn't know, but like you clearly do your homework and you study, whether it's history, whether it's fitness. Like, what does that process look like for you if you're kind of going, like you're talking about rope flow right now? Is it just kind of like I start doing it, I start looking at how my body's reacting to it? Is it partially instinct? Is it partially the textbooks? Like, what does that look like for you?
Both and everything and then like a discerning eye too. So like anytime somebody thinks feels like they're trying to convince me of something, or if they're hating on other ways of doing something, it's like a big red flag. So like if they come from it, say, hey, this can help you and these are the limitations. Like first I try to see how genuine the source is. So, if there's a book and it looks like it's trying to convince me to do something, I generally don't read it. You know what I mean? Or if it's convincing me to not, because it's just like in my eyes, if they don't give you all of the information that they're able to give you, if they purposely withhold information, then it's a lie. So I just be careful. I'm really guarded with what I put into my head, and like where I get my information. And I just question everything. And I always want to hear the other side of every argument. So I always say that like if all you ever heard was the prosecution's case, you would convict everybody that went to trial. And there'd be a lot more innocent people in jail. So when we listen to gossip or we listen to propaganda, we're not listening to the defense's argument. And and we're opening ourselves up to that. So, I think a lot of people, they want to come at things like, hey, I want to improve myself. I want to become better. That was never really me. I just was very curious about a lot of things. I just wanted to know more. I wanted to know as much as I could. And I started to learn like there's crossover in things that seem unrelated. You can take military history and social sciences and the kettlebell, and you can see how things are interrelated, and you can use analogies and metaphors from one thing to help you better understand another. So people that are just into fitness, I think they need to open up to a lot more than just fitness in order just for them to understand fitness a little bit better. It's kind of all over the place there.
No, that was great. It's yeah. So a guy like Judd is. I really appreciate it, and we talked a lot about you have a lot of knowledge, and I think that leads so much to your ability to create content on social media. Like you can see it in the ideas that come out, but again, you can talk about politics, you can talk about fitness, you can talk about mindset, you can talk about. I really appreciate your content on and your point of view on just how you view manhood, all those topics we went into. So I was like, holy shit, this guy's well read, and this guy has like thoughtful opinions. So yeah, just kind of sharing that bite. But go back to your journey as a creator, and to kind of wrap this up. So let's say you're now coaching up and coming fitness professionals and content creators for building out their personal brands. What advice are you giving? What would you say?
So the first thing is find something that makes you special. Like what is it that's real to you? Like don't try to be something you're not. What is it about you that makes you special? What do you do really well at? And then learn how to convey that in a way that captures people's attention immediately. So just you have to think how people use social media, right? They scroll. So something has to capture their eye to get them to pause, first of all, on whatever it is you're putting out there, the image, all right? And then they read. So you have a second to put something on that screen after they pause that makes them want to click on it. And then you have 3 seconds to make them want to watch it. So you have to get past three things: slow down and stop scrolling, focus on the text or the image that's on the page, click on it, and get them interested in the first 3 seconds to watch the rest of your reel. And that reel or that post has to be conveyed in a way that wants them to flip to the next side or keep watching. So it has to be a pull through the entire thing. So whenever I make a reel, I'm trying to get them there to click on it, and then I'm pulling them through that reel. And that doesn't mean I'm being fake. It doesn't mean I'm bullshitting anything or not being genuine. It's just, how do I have the information that's in my heart and in my head? How can I convey that in this 30 seconds to a minute and a half? When I write something, I want them to want to flip to the next slide to see and get more information. And that is key. If you don't you might have the best information in the world, but if you don't get them to slow down and stop scrolling, no one's going to see it. And then after a while, you get better and better at it. You'll have an idea in your head that might be an idea that if I were to sit here and explain it to you, it would take me 45 minutes. But you get better at taking that 45 minutes of explanation and packaging it into, a 30-second reel. And then you got to understand, in the caption, you do have time to write out a longer explanation, to go more in depth on things, and you should do that. Paul Harvey said, you know who Paul Harvey is by chance?
I don't.
He's a little bit older, but he would do this thing on the radio. It's nationally syndicated radio. He had a thing called The Rest of the Story, and he's a very good storyteller and writer. And he always said the shorter something was, the longer it took him to write it. So to give a speech that was very short took him a long time to write it, because he had to just understand what information was important, what people needed to know, and how to captivate that audience in a very short amount of time. And that is an art to social media. It's actually pretty cool when you think about it. You have to take complex subjects, because people have very short attention spans. You're competing with a lot of other people for their scroll time. Something about the image and the caption and the wording has to capture their attention. And then the next thing is be consistent.
Can I interrupt that point, because that's super fascinating. So, and I think Tom, people would be curious this about you. Are you planned out a week ahead? I think I know the answer, but to that, like, how far ahead is a post plan for you?
So different things work for different people. So if you're the type of person that's a little bit more structured, that's probably a good idea. It doesn't work for me. And people try to get me to plan out my content a week ahead all the time. But I kind of have to be inspired. So I divide my content into categories. So I have like inspirational, I have informational, and then I kind of have whiny, complainy, where it's a whine or a complaint or a gripe, but it has to be something that people can relate to, so we can all kind of gripe together and then laugh at ourselves maybe. So, I have those three categories, and I just want to make sure that there's a good balance in there. That it's not all just informational, because that gets boring, that it's not just motivational, or that I'm not whining too much, because it has to be something that people can relate to, they don't get tired of hearing. So I just kind of stick with those three categories. I'm like, what I'm feeling right now, what category does that fit into? Other than that, and then I go back, and people think that they always have to be coming up with new ideas, right? And you will, but you can go back and look at old content that you made and find a way to, because it's important, and people don't realize that, like, very few people saw that, especially if you're growing quickly. If you posted something 6 months ago, 95% of your followers now have never seen that information. And if you believe in that information and that it's valuable, look at that old reel, find a way to repackage it and rephrase things in an interesting way, and use it as like a way to develop your skill, and then put it back on your feed just so people can get that information again. You don't always have to be coming up with new ideas. Your message needs to be over and over and over again saying some of the same things, because repetition is what people remember. So you need to be very consistent, but you don't always have to be coming up with new ideas either.
So are you like day of? So day starts, you wake up, and you're like, I got a post that's going up today. Do you give yourself, does that kind of flood your thought process upon waking up, where you're like, what's going out today? or do you have it kind of structured enough where you're like, I could sit down at this time frame. I have these mental frameworks and these pillars, and then I know I just trust myself that I can pull something from there. Like what's that process when you wake up in the morning?
I went through a short period of time when I did stress about getting content out, but now it's like it just kind of happens. As I go through my day, ideas just flow to me. There's always stuff that I want to write that I want to put out, so that's a part of it, like short sayings or things I heard, things my son said that are really funny. And then I'm going to work out every day anyway. And so people are just curious in what your workouts are. So as I do something or try something or feel something, I'll just film it. And I don't even know for sure what I want to say about that thing at the time. So I film one set. I normally do 2 to 3 sets of it, like everybody else. I'll film the second one. That way, if it gets screwed up, I can always add one more. So I normally film 1 to 2 sets of every exercise. Like if somebody walks in front of the screen or something, I don't like flip out, like, hey, I can just do it again, you know what I mean? Or just post it with somebody walking in front of the screen. It doesn't matter. People don't care. And then in between sets while I'm resting, I'll quickly edit that film so that one image. So I just shorten it down, and crop it a little bit. It takes 2 seconds, store it. And then either immediately after or like if I'm transitioning, I've gotten so good where I can make a reel in 5 minutes maybe, So sometimes I'll make the reel during my workout, like if I'm trying to rest or something, and I can make it like it's an informational reel and I just want to post one exercise and say one thing about that exercise. I can literally do that in 3 to 4 minutes. And so by the time I catch my breath, I've made a reel. And then when I get home, I'll normally do a compilation of the exercises from that workout, what I was trying to accomplish from that workout, what injuries I was working around, say something about it. And then later at night, I have all of this footage now, several thousand clips of videos in my phone and stored to where I can make in there, I categorize them each, in different categories in my phone in different albums. So if there's something I want to talk about fitness, the first thing I do is I go and I pull all of the footage from those different albums and I have it on the reel and I write out what I want to say and then I edit and rearrange them and cut it down and then put what I want to say over each image and I can do it in 20, 30 minutes. So you're looking at a total of a couple hours of work every day, honestly. And honestly, you spend more time interacting with people in the comments and DMs than you do making footage. That's what people don't understand. Like, social media means an interaction between people, right? Socius is Latin for friends. So it's friend, and media is short for medium. So it's a place where friends interact. And if you want to grow your social media, you have to interact with the people that are commenting and watching your stuff. And you have to be willing to dedicate more time doing that than just making the content. People focus so much on trying to get the perfect camera angle and the perfect, like, making sure the filters are just right and all this other stuff that does make a difference. Not a huge difference, though. But then when people will comment, they won't interact with the people. And then they forget the social aspect of this media that we do.
That's well said. Is that a 7 day a week job for you where you're doing community every single day? Did you ever take a day off type of thing? Curious.
Sometimes I'll intend to, and like I have an idea and I'll just post a reel in 5 minutes. Really, like it really is good to post every day. But you can do things too, like you can save up an extra reel and schedule it to post on another day. So if you want to take the entire day away from your phone, you can absolutely do that. You can schedule reels to post whenever you want them to post. So if you want to take Saturday and Sunday off, on Friday, you just make 4 or 5 extra reels, spend a few extra hours, as opposed to a day job where it's like 8 hours a day. Like, seriously, what's 3 hours making reels? And then schedule those to release throughout the weekend, and you don't even have to pick up your phone over the weekend. But I carry mine around, and if it's something I want to say, I'll post it on there, and then it doesn't really feel like a job. It just feels like me sharing what I do with other people. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think people should look at it like a 7 day a week job. It's like it's in lieu of a 9 to 5 job. You know what I mean?
I love Judd, the content creator. So in your mental frameworks are fantastic, and then you're like I'm gonna get a post out every day. Some days I'm gonna budget for it from out a post, but you're like I'm gonna get 7 reels out. I'm at least a week. Is that more? Is that, and then you're like, if I miss, that's okay. Like, is there a non-negotiable there? Or?
If you miss, you miss. But like the more you miss, like the more it becomes a habit to miss. It's like anything else. So be careful with that habit. But if you miss, don't freak out about it. If something happens, if there's a tragedy in the family or something, or you're sick, don't feel like, you have to post at your aunt's wedding. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But it's like working out, right? Like if you miss a day, so what? But be careful of the habit you're forming by missing. It's like anything else. Like habits form one way or another. So don't make it a habit to miss, but also don't freak out if you do. Um, but consistency is key. And I post shit 20, 30 reels a week. When I first got in there, like don't post too much. And I posted too much and it seemed like it worked out okay for me.
And that's great. And last question before I let you go, this has been awesome, is you every comment I give you, you get a like to, and you were talking about it, like social media, like you put a lot of hours in and a lot of love into. It seems like, I don't want to speak for you, your community on social media and inside of your product experience. Do you view that as like a non-negotiable? What's your mental framework for how you think about community engagement?
Everybody looks at it like as an exchange, right? A value exchange. So if somebody DMs you a question, and honestly, I can't respond to all the DMs I'd like to anymore either, and that is hard. And they look how many followers that person has, or somebody comments in the comment section, they have 300 followers. They look at it as a value exchange, especially if you have a lot of followers amassed. Is it worth my time? How is interacting with this person going to make me money? And that's the wrong way to look at it. Invest your time into people and they will invest into you. You got to think about it. Like, so we'll say one dude has 300 followers and he asks you a question. He's hurting or she's hurting online and they need your advice. If you let's say you have 500,000 followers and you take 10 minutes out of your night and you give them a thoughtful response and invest in them, that's going to mean the world to them. And they're going to tell everybody, like, hey, I asked him a question in the DMs and he spent 3 or 4 minutes writing a long paragraph to answer my question or express his heartfelt condolences to me. And it's not a value exchange. You're building value in people that way. And you gotta never forget that, like, it's more than about money. Since we have a platform now, even if you think you have a modest following of 5, 10,000 people, you have a platform where what you say really matters, good or bad. And you have an opportunity, if you feel like you're offering value to people, to really help them. And as a Christian, why would I not want to do that? It isn't always about money. Even if this doesn't equal dollars in my pocket, it's not like I'm working 40 hours a day. That's hyperbole. It's not like I'm working 12-hour shifts. I work 3 hours a day. I can spend 3 minutes helping this person out. And then it'll come back to you in one form or another.
Well, I love that. So this is my very last question, and I'm really curious in this one. So you put yourself out there. I think that's one of the hardest things to do on social media because you're just pushing yourself out there for judgment. And you already mentioned that you kind of just like, I'm putting my truth out there. You're a deeply principled guy. Out of like a percentage, it's like vulnerability, you're like, you could be kind of just fully vulnerable, like 100% vulnerable. Do you still feel like there's parts of you that you want to express on social? Do you feel like you've put your full self out there? Do you feel like you still pull punches? Do you think there's more room for you to evolve for what you put out there? Hopefully, I think you get what I'm saying, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's important to find a balance between using emotion in your posts, and not being driven by emotion. And I haven't found that balance yet. I'm very emotional. Sometimes I let my emotions drive my content rather than feed my content. And so that's a hard balance. And still fairly new at this, so I'm still trying to find that balance. And some days I do better than others. But I draw the line with my personal stuff is like, do I feel like this can help somebody? And I don't draw it as like how embarrassing it is to me, or if they might know too much about me. It's like, no, if I say this and put it out there, could somebody relate to it? Will it help somebody? Can it help people relate to somebody? Like, people are gonna put you on a pedestal, and you can't help it. And it might annoy some of us to be put on a pedestal. And people always demonize you too, and like either way, they don't really know you. So it's important to use that pedestal to put out information that makes them feel like they're connected to you and you're relatable and you're a real human being. And it'll lift them up by getting off your pedestal every once in a while. It'll help lift other people up. You know, I always say we always focus on lifting people up. Sometimes we just need to sit down with them where they're at. You know, and it means the world to them.
Dude, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your time. I think I'm excited to see where you go. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I think you're at the first inning and I think you know that too. But yeah, I'm super excited to see where everything goes with you. I don't know, any doesn't need to be anything else. Any closing words? Any other thoughts?
And we're just super grateful to Playbook, man. You guys have been genuine, helpful, honest, giving us great information and guidance the whole way. With Clebera, like we can always turn to her for expert assistance, and I can really tell that she cares about more than just my brand. You know what I mean? So, been a great experience working with you guys.
We're grateful for you, man. Well, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for sharing, and I look forward to seeing you out there.
All right, Jeff. Good talking to you again, man. Good seeing
See
you.
you.